Good cinematographer has no vision. Good cinematographer has no style.
Is a cinematographer there to serve the director's vision?
At the end, everybody's serving the director's vision. That's how it is. Cinematographer is just like one part of the whole process. Important part, obviously. Cinematographer is the one who has to translate what's written in the script into images. But at the end, every film is director's vision. It's like, again, analogy. If you're in orchestra, well, there is only one conductor who takes baton and then guides the orchestra. But there's also first violin, which is right there on the first chair at the end. That's a cinematographer. So that's how it works. That's the dynamic between cinematographer and a director. Yes, it's Herbert von Karajan conducting Mahler's Symphony number whatever, but he's the one who is giving it a shape. But it's each group of musicians does their part to bring drama, to bring beauty of the composition. The same way the first violin is going to just take this solo and bring it exactly to it should be. So cinematographers does the same thing. You know, we are part of the same process, and as much as our job is to be invisible, so is everybody else's job to be invisible, because we are all at the end serving one big idea. And yes, there are cinematographers who, you know, sometimes they would go and do their own thing. And might look beautiful, but it might not be in function of the story. It's kind of you take on your own. You play in your own key. Doesn't happen so often, but you know, sometimes it happens. It just, you know, we are all creative people, and if there is a good communication between cinematographer and director, then it's perfect. Then you guys are on in sync, and that's why we have such great teams when you think about cinematographers and directors for years and years, and films working together. Why? Because that's the understanding that they have. They work together and they know how to communicate and get the best out of each other.
Going back to what you said about Herbie Hancock and Miles Davis, knowing to make up for something where one lacked or one went off.
Yes, exactly. That's kind of how it is.
So that was my next question, was just what about the cinematographer's own vision, serving their vision?
Well, good cinematographers has no vision. Good cinematographer has no style. Style has to come from the written word. Style has to come from what script is about. And when you look at work of some great cinematographers, you know, Vittorio Storaro, Civo Lubetsky, Roger Deakins, these guys, you know, Conrad Hall, you know, these guys are always reinventing themselves from the film to film. They look so different in one movie, but then so different in another movie. Why? Because the script is calling for specific look, for specific style, and that's, as a cinematographer, you have to be like a chameleon. You have to change and switch. And all of a sudden you're doing something that is all in very, very dark and moody. Another one is very colorful and bright. Another one is very static. Another one is completely moving and dynamic. And so it does not come from cinematographer's style or personal preference. Again, I can have personal preference to do certain kind of images, certain kind of movies, but I think it would be boring after a while, doing always the same thing. That's why big artists always go through phases, this phase and that phase, and you know, even the musicians go through different phases, making albums, you know, R&B, and all of a sudden there is a country album by the same artist, and you know, why not? Why not? If you can, do it.
Does a cinematographer need to understand editing?
Yes, very important. Again, going back to, we are all part of the same process. We all contribute to the whole final movie. Understanding editing is so important. Understanding everybody position as a cinematographer is very important. And but particularly I think editing is key, because as a cinematographer you have to understand when you're creating certain shot, it's not only that shot, this shot is just part of the bigger picture. How is this shot going to fit as a piece of a puzzle to the whole thing? you have to understand how is this size going to match with another angle. And this shot now, in order to work, you have to have complementary matching angle if you're going talking just simple traditional coverage. If you have a wide master shot and coverage, you have to understand the rules of editing, the rules of combining shots, logics of the eye line, and many other things that you need to follow as a cinematographer to understand, which is not necessarily cinematography, but it is about continuity. And in order to maintain visual continuity, you have to understand that stuff. Same way with the editing. And also, you have to also understand if the shot that you are doing works without coverage, which is also part where the director steps in and says, no, this works fine. This is going to be a very elaborate, complicated dolly move, which will tell the story exactly how we need to tell the story. So there is no need now to even edit editing other than this is the beginning, this is the end. And then editing happens inside the frame itself, which is choreographed and well coordinated. And when staged, what we call mise en scène, basically it's the movement, coordinated movement between actors and camera. And at every moment, camera is giving you some interesting and new information that keeps your attention always going. So you never get bored by watching some interesting long. And we have seen movies, like Birdman or Revenant or movies like that. It's like long, there's no like cutting. You don't need to. You have a pace, you have a rhythm. You bring audience into it and take you on a journey. That's how you do it. As a cinematographer, understanding, that's the attention right away from the beginning that makes it, there will be no editing, or at least visible editing. So you combine all these elements and you work together with editor.
We know that every film starts with a script.
Yep.
Is this where you start when you begin a project?
Yes. It always starts with a script. It always starts from like, hey, this is the story. This is a script or this is a treatment. Read it and let's talk about it. Or book. This is a book. We're going to try to make a movie based on this book. There is a script that's been developed based on the book. So yeah, this is foundation. This is a blueprint. This is like if you want to build a building, well, this is your blueprint. And then you say, okay, I need that. We can do it this way, that way. But without script, without written word, it's very hard to articulate what are we doing here. However, I have to say, I was once involved in a movie which had no script. It was one of the kind movie. And we did it, I did it with my very, very dear friend, my friend from film school. We studied together and we did all our films together in the school. And then we did later on, he lives in Europe, so we did only 2 projects together. But that film was very unusual in many ways because he called me and said, let's do the movie. It's taking place in Berlin. And that's all I know. Like, okay, so what do we do now? I said, well, we're going to go and get inspired by the city. We're going to spend time in Berlin. We will go, you, me, and my writer, and we will come up with a story. It will be a feature film, but we don't know yet what kind of film. And that's exactly what we did. We ended up for 2 weeks going through Berlin. We hired location manager who would take us to most interesting places. And like, okay, that's interesting. Okay. And then somehow the story started emerging. We would have this kind of, what about this? Or how about if the story is about this? Or no, how about this? And eventually, like, the outline of the story, or at least the treatment was born, like, okay, now we know what story is about. So director and screenwriter ended up writing a script for about a month. A month later, I came back and we had a script. But now I know what we're going. Now I know all locations. I pretty much absorbed them all really well. We ended up actually making this movie. And it was the first and only time in my life that I had 3 months between coming to the project and finishing the project. From the, we don't know what we're doing, to it's wrap. That was great. That's what I like about filmmaking. You never know. There's no rules. There can be anything. So,
Did you speak German when you embarked on the project?
I do speak German, but the director is from my part of the world. So we spoke German, French, Czech, English, obviously, Serbo-Croatian, Bosnian. So, like typical European production, all the languages are spoken on the set.
And how did you sort of drink in this city? Did you take public transportation?
Everything from public transportation. We'll get in a metro. Berlin has amazing metro, so you get and you just ride. You see it. You get a feeling. Oh, that looks cool. Oh, you get in some neighborhoods. Berlin is a fascinating city. I love Berlin. Each part of Berlin is different. And it's very artistic. So it's very beautiful architecture. So the one thing about Berlin that really fascinated me is because you see the old Berlin, but also there is the new Berlin, and the new Berlin is what happened after reunification of Germany, when that new spirit of unity came back, and it's so well expressed in architecture and art in general in Germany or Berlin. So you feel the architecture that, you know, the way how they would use this freedom, the freedom of expression through the architecture. Well, Germany always had amazing architects, but some of the buildings and stuff in Berlin is like, you cannot find it anywhere else. Why? Because, and this is not my observation, this is what I was told by our local guys, you know, this building was basically showing that we can do whatever we want. We are free. We can, you know, express ourselves, and that's great.
Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. Here is a complimentary question from our book Story Questions.